I feel, and I have grown up feeling impending doom when it comes to money.
Money is important. You need money to do good. There's a game out there that you're playing whether you know it or not.
Loans can be predatory. And if you don't know how it works, if you don't educate yourself on money, we need to learn those rules. I took out a loan and it was one of the best decisions that I did for myself. And that really did change my life. Hello again.
Yeah, welcome back.
Look at us doing a part 2. First of all, how are you feeling?
So it feels good to be back in the studio. We weren't able to finish all the content that we wanted to get through last time. So we're kind of doing this as like a part 2 to the first episode, which I think is a great idea.
I think we have great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it might be a little bit biased, but no, I would have to agree with you for sure.
It is completely biased, but I feel passionate about this. So first episode, I was super nervous because it's our first time ever being in a professional studio doing this. And I felt like, who am I to have the audacity to talk about money and generational trauma? I have this notion that I don't know shit and I should have a degree. I should have credentials to back it up.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it's imposter syndrome. I know I have a degree, and my degree and just the fact that we're both first gen, our experience is enough. So I think making the first episode was so valuable. It had to happen, not just for the topics we discussed, but the nerves that went into it. It had to happen. So I could remind myself the why we're doing this.
Yeah, I think no matter what, and I don't want to go too far into this topic, but I think it's important for the audience to hear too. It's like, no matter what, you are always worthy. You know, you're worth it. Like you can come from whatever background. It can be privileged. It can be, having to work harder than others to have the same level of opportunity. Regardless, everyone's experience is valuable and we don't want to discredit anyone no matter where they're coming from in their backgrounds.
And having this conversation, I love that conversations like this and where you're asked to be vulnerable. I mean, it's such a bridge. It's a bridge for everyone to meet a common ground, to meet understanding. And I'm hoping that talking about generational traumas does become a bridge of love. Having the conversation is like the first, to me, it's such a great first step to the healing process. Yeah. And I mean, we're getting like nitty gritty because people are what's the song called? Very funny about money. Yeah, money is like the hot topic. It's the controversial topic. Money is like referenced in nearly anything about so much of pop culture, whether you see someone motivated to obtain more or whether you see someone criticizing it and whether it's improved or deteriorated society. It's such a controversial topic. And unfortunately, it's become taboo. And for a lot of first-gen families, a lot of immigrant families. And we were talking about yesterday when we were prepping. We were prepping about how we were feeling off of the first episode. And you had me write down, like I said a comment, you were like, write that down, like don't forget. And I thought it was really funny to think about how our friends are asking us questions about what we should talk about when it comes to financial traumas and very much treating us like the mom and dad of the friend group. And the friend group now is the internet. So just you lighting up, your eyes lighting up and be like, oh, I like that. I really, really like that. That very much reminded me the why we're doing this. And it's because like if one person can take value out of this, if one person can feel like they can feel seen by what we're talking about, then it's worth it. It feels like we helped out someone in our friend group. And I don't mean it in a condescending way of being the mom and dad of the friend group. I just mean it in more of like, I hope it's a vehicle of love. I hope you feel seen. I hope you feel loved, knowing that there are other first gen people that see it, they see the struggle, and they want to talk about it. They want to shine light upon it.
Yeah, I think every friend group needs kind of like either a mom of the group, a dad of the group, or if it's a couple, they need the mom and dad of the group. The person or people who are a little bit like more responsible than the rest of the group in terms of like what they're up to that, in that outing or whatever. Like say it's a group of friends going to like a club or a bar, the people or person's taking care of them. And it's the same across all aspects of life, whether it's entertainment, going out for that night, finances, providing some advice or anything like that, how to prepare emergency fund, what to look for when you're moving in, moving out somewhere, how to get the most back on your security deposit. It's always nice to be able to have a space or a person to ask those questions to that's been there, done that.
I don't know about more responsible. I feel like, okay, I see what you're trying to say, but I feel like what I'm trying to say is like, as the one that has gone through the struggle, and they'll tell you like, okay, wait, I've gone through something similar. Let me tell you what I learned from it.
Exactly. Yeah. More responsible is not the word, but I didn't know the words to use for that. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. I just don't know what that's called. Maybe it's wisdom.
Yeah. Having the wisdom.
Yeah. Old souls.
I think you're an old soul, not me, but that's why we work so well as a team.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
So the first episode, we talked about how generational traumas do affect finances and thus becoming like financial trauma. And I'm going to go ahead and just remind everyone about what we spoke about in the first episode. The first episode, I discussed that as a first-gen Latina, money was one of the most controversial topics and in my case, one of the most traumatic topics in my upbringing. Money is delicate. Money is tightened, it feels like, of a subject to talk about when you don't know or you're scared, because financial literacy can make or break us. So I feel, and I have grown up feeling, impending doom when it comes to money.
Anxiety.
And yes, the anxiety of it. And when we got together and I got to learn more about your profession and what it means to you, like, and you opened that conversation about finances, it was really getting into like the good, the bad, and ugly, like of how, I mean, mostly ugly, of how I look at finances, because I felt like I couldn't just say to you, oh, I don't know what investments are. I don't know about a lot. And I couldn't just say it like a fact. I felt like, oh, I don't know about this because this, and this. Like there's so much emotions tied into our opinions on finances. And that's something that I want to talk about and dissect more today. Our first episode, we very much that had questions. My girlfriends that are listening, like, I thought of you and I wanted to lead with love with your questions about money. And thank you for that. And how we're bridging with healing, how we're going to bridge basically like how love is going to improve our decisions financially, and how through love, we're going to free ourselves and we're hoping we're going to heal from the anxiety. And then we don't feel such impending doom, but we become prepared and we become confident in our decisions. So that sound good to you?
Yeah, no, I think that's super powerful. And it reminds me of, I was talking with a financial advisor that I work really closely with. And he was saying that like when he asks people to review their finances, like they're like so scared that they don't even want to do it. Right. But it's working through those kinds of feelings with love, like you said, and with intention, instead of just being blind to it and, finding yourself in a position maybe that you don't want to be in, all because you were scared to face the fear. Yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping into this episode.
Yay. All right. Without further ado, let's open some wounds. Okay, so
that sounds scary.
It is scary, and it is scary. My chest is closing up because I feel like as many times we talk about it, I still get anxious, but way less than when we first started having these conversations.
Yeah, and it's important. So yeah, Let's dive in.
So to remind people from first episode, I did discuss how a study has come. There's studies that show that basically the higher an ACEs score. So the ACEs test, essentially, it's just seeing like it affects a lot of how we're brought up. So
it's basically like a childhood trauma report card, right?
Yes, yes. And I passed with flying colors.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how traumatic was your childhood? That's what the ACEs score is.
Yeah. And let me tell you, that was like the one test I've ever felt so confident I was going to get a high score.
No need to study. You didn't need to study for that one.
No need to study. So 2021 by Harder, and I'll have it linked under, found that people with higher childhood adversity reported more adult financial stress. The first episode, we briefly touched upon an example of that. And my example was the '08 financial crisis. So in my understanding from me growing up is that when the '08 financial crisis was happening, it felt like the tone in my household changed. It felt a lot more, everything felt bleak. I remembered I just stopped seeing. I lived with a bunch of people in my house, so I stopped seeing my uncle going to work, and I started hearing the news more. It became such an early memory, starting to hear the news more. There was just a lot of, it just felt like almost like a cloud just came over our country. Like it felt very dark. And then as I continued growing up and I'm being introduced to the internet, it's become like such a buzzword that unfortunately me being a child on the internet did not understand the severity of it. So I consumed all the memes.
I was gonna say it's a meme now.
Yeah, it's a meme now. And it was a meme of like when your parents are fighting in the living room and you're trying to play Guitar Hero. like it's like, and I'm like, oh my God, did so many kids have the same, like they understood like, oh, this is bad, but you're also trying to be a kid. And fast forward now, I feel like our generation's like, wait, most homeowners aren't going to own their first home until like their late 30s. Like what's going on?
I think it's 40s now. Is
40s.
The most recent thing that I read.
Yes.
And this is right around the time of the 50-year mortgage now too, which I don't know if you've heard about that, but they're trying to come out with a more affordable mortgage for new homeowners to reduce how old people are when they're buying their first home. It used to be, people in their mid-20s were buying their first homes. Now it's 40. And the government's, or the market is like, how can we fix that? How can we get back to where that is? But sorry, that's a whole different topic.
And we'll get into that. Definitely, I want an episode on home ownership. But it's like stuff like that. Like I can pinpoint one like dark event, and then it's like affected a lot of what I see now. And that's what the point I'm trying to get at.
A whole generation.
Yes, a whole generation.
Yep.
That I wish it just stopped there. The trauma of money for a lot of people. But no, everyone has their unique story. I have my unique story. You have your unique story. I guess I want a reminder. I want a reminder about you being first gen. Your mom came from Mexico, dad from Peru. Out of all these possibilities in the world that you can be, where you can study, where you can travel to, why become a CPA? Who taught you that? Because my family's had a similar story about being immigrants. I didn't know a CPA was a thing. Like, what is that? Well, why does it exist? I assumed that the people that work in money were bankers. And that's as limited as my knowledge was for the longest time.
Yeah, I think it's becoming like more, people are getting more information about different finance careers. Like a big one right now that's kind of a meme is like the finance bro. It's like, oh yeah, that's an option now as a career. You can be a finance bro, right? Yeah. But I'll just share a little bit, just kind of recap from the first episode or for maybe anyone who's joining us now. I'm a CPA, how to read financial reports, how to prepare financial reports, what they mean for a business or even for an individual. Tax regulation and law, which is a big part of what CPAs do. Depends on what kind of CPA you are, but a lot of them will focus on tax. Business economics and the business environment. So that's just in general business knowledge and the economy and the markets and how they all kind of influence each other. And then one of the last exams was auditing. So audits and regulations, how to look for and verify information being prepared and presented on a financial report. It's something that I got into actually because of my parents and because of my upbringing. I didn't know what a CPA was. I don't think anyone ever grows up wanting to be an accountant, right?
Yeah.
Like we're married. If our kids tell me they want to be an accountant, I'm like, dude, you're a nerd. Like, like I've never heard someone say they want to be an accountant when they grow up. But it is a great profession. And I got into it because my parents, I call them serial entrepreneurs. They were starting and stopping a whole bunch of small businesses growing up. And they never worked, they immigrated here. So they never worked with a professional that they could trust that helped guide them on the tax side of everything, the legal side of running a business, how to access, loans, lines of credits that are not predatory, that are actually going to help you grow your business, put together a plan. When too much debt is too much, how much debt to take on, when to take money out of the business, when to put money back in. That kind of stuff I think every small business owner could use. And my parents especially, because business is tough. It's no joke. So when I got to college, I had an opportunity to declare my major and I decided I wanted to do business, kind of following in my parents' footsteps. But in what I wanted to do, I wasn't sure if it was, marketing, accounting, finance, law, anything like that. So I chose accounting, understanding that every business could use an accountant. And it's something that, you'll always have work with that. An accountant will help you with your taxes, whether the economy's bad or the economy's good. So
That's a good point.
I knew I was going to have work doing that, and I knew I could help people like my parents. So I decided to become an accountant. Once I was going through that whole program, I learned more about what a CPA is and how it kind of sets you apart from the rest of the accountants, which was important for being competitive in the job search, right? So I decided I wanted to go for my CPA license. I got that. Was working at a few public accounting firms. And again, it all stems from my parents immigrating, wanting to provide for me and my 4 other siblings, and deciding that entrepreneurship was the best way to do that. It can be. I mean, entrepreneurship is high risk, high reward, right? So sometimes when you have limited options as an immigrant, a new immigrant to the country, you just have to pick something and stick with it and give it all you can. And that's what my parents did. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
I think that's universal across any first generation American. It's, our parents came here and made a big sacrifice and they provided for us. What can we do to build off of that?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing today.
Yeah. Your statement, my brain is like simply reacting to what you're saying. Like everything you're saying is like, it is a beautiful story.
And seeing that, feeling a sort of pressure to participate in the family business, maybe instead of going to school. I mean, there was legitimate pressure I received from one of my parents about give up school, don't study like for college or don't prep for, college applications and stuff like that, and just come work. And there's a certain type of pressure there. I wouldn't say it's like an impending doom, but for me, it was almost a loss of identity where it was me asking myself, is this really what I want to do with my life? Is this my decision? And having to face that and not know if I was making the right decision or the right, answer for myself, but knowing that I wanted it to be my decision more than someone else's decision, my parents or whoever was trying to influence me. And then now being able to see and understand the financial side of it, really understanding, holy cow, like, is this going to be enough for my parents when they can no longer work, right? When they're done working, do they have something to retire off of? Am I my parents' retirement plan? Me and my siblings,
Oof.
We have that pressure on ourselves. We ask ourselves, even if our parents are not directly saying that that's the plan, it's like, well, what is the plan then? Because I don't see it. And I'm looking at the numbers here, you know what I mean? And the numbers don't lie. So there's way more layers to it than what I just said, in my journey and kind of picking my career. But there's a lot to dive into with just what I mentioned right there. So
everything you've said right now, thank you for sharing and opening up and digging deeper. The whole concept of being a retirement plan, that's what I mean with like a generational trauma, how it affects finance decisions. Because I do believe that there's a lot, and I've seen it when I worked with high school students. I've seen a lot of that pressure of why go to a college when you can just start working. And not that there's anything inherently wrong. It's not every, to me, I don't subscribe to black and white. I believe that I completely understand and I have empathy. If people want to go to work or if people want to drop out, go to another type of I know that some people graduate early by taking a certain exam so then they can go to community college or go to trade school. Not everything needs to look linear, but my God, the pressure from family, it's so much. It's a world to carry. And it almost strips you of innocence. It strips you of childhood. The concept of being a child and a teenager is fairly new. In the grand scheme of things, think of how old the world is and empires. The concept of being a child and a teenager committing to leisure activities is a privilege that's so young. That is a very small little concept compared to how it's always been for the longest time. Because I definitely feel like at the moment you can start, you have like your mobile, you can use your fingers and everything. Okay, go to the factory and start
when
working.
you have motor control.
Yeah, motor control.
Yeah, this is probably within the last 100 years, the concept of childhood is actually it used to be child labor before that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And it still is in a lot of places.
Yeah, that's true.
Immense privilege. So when I think about my family and their upbringing, we're the first generation to have essentially that leisure. But it's different because our parents and the concept of moving, of immigration is a trauma itself, you know, uprooting your life. So it's like, it's almost like our parents have, it almost feels old world. Like they want us to be working as soon as possible because all they think about is survival. And we are thinking about identity. And that's almost like they see that as a privilege. They almost see having your own identity as leisure. And I feel like that has contributed so much of the guilt of financial decisions. Last episode, I talked about the guilt I feel with traveling, the guilt I feel with spending money for myself. I had a breakdown over buying myself a new laptop that I know I needed. And my laptop was like years and years old.
Yeah, I think they didn't even accept it for trade-in value, right?
No,
when we talked about it. Yeah, so
they did it.
They were like, this is junk. We can't even.
Yeah, that was horrible. And I felt so guilty because in my household, it's like if it still turns on, it works. Like money doesn't grow on trees. You know, that rhetoric we learned so much time and time again. I love that you opened up about you wanting your own identity because I feel like I see so many kids that do consider dropping out or they feel this guilt going to college and being a full-time college student. A lot of kids can feel that kind of guilt. They feel like they should be part-time so they can work.
Right.
And the fact that you're talking about that wants and needs of identity, I wonder how many people that are listening have felt that wants and needs crave, that they can form their identity without this immense guilt and pressure. Feeling like you're the retirement plan. Oh, I felt that. I feel that. I feel like my mom doesn't need to tell me that. But when I look at the numbers and when I look at the way she's living and I'm like 2 + 2 is not 6, like, and I just start looking everywhere and I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute. Like I'm looking at everyone in my family and I realize that, I mean, not to say like in a classist or in a superior way, but I just feel like it kind of feels like I'm the one that's getting my shit together. Why does it kind of feel like I'm the retirement plan?
Right.
Like she doesn't need to say anything, but here's the thing. The reason why I'm saying this and why I feel like this episode's so important is because, guys, if you're listening, I just talked to my mom about retirement. And the reason I talked to her about retirement is because I met the love of my life who is educated on financial literacy. He is financially literate. And he asked me point blank, hey, what's mom's plan? Because my mom always throws out the concept of like immigrating back, which is a common concept in immigrant families for retirement, going back to the home country because you can you'll have more money to live with essentially like dignity, right? And when you asked me that was my answer. Like, oh, she'll probably just move back, like knowing her. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, wait, why? That's a big decision. Why?
Yeah. And then we looked at the numbers, right?
Yeah. And then you so graciously said, okay, well, I already help your mom with taxes. How about we have your mom talk to a financial advisor? And just so you have the peace of mind.
Yep.
And my God, it was a whole journey to realize that, oh, my mom's been struggling and there's things that she can use help on. And now I understand why she would want to immigrate back to her home country. Mm-hmm. And I'm someone that tries to not verbally ask my mom like out loud, like for help. Like, because
you don't ask for help or you don't offer help?
I don't ask for help.
Okay.
Because seeing my mom's numbers, talking to the financial planner, which you set up, it like brought up so many memories of my childhood. And it was like, no wonder we don't have a retirement plan. No wonder. And to talk about how trauma shapes money habits, I'll give a little spiel of my background where it made me realize this is why I feel this pressure of me having to be the retirement plan, but also I don't know what I'm doing financially. I feel in the impending doom. So my family are immigrants, and I'll just focus on, so mom's upbringing. She immigrated from El Salvador. That's a whole other topic of generational trauma, depending on your home country, because El Salvador, it's tough. It's tough growing up there. And she went through a lot. She went through a lot. She lost her father before she immigrated to America. She came over, my grandmother and I believe my great grandfather, they came to America. And I mean, being already a single mom, I can't imagine the struggles that she went through with having a single mom and navigating America. She meets eventually down the line when she gets with my dad. It's easy to see that it was not an equal partnership. So being the child of them, it was clear to me in my small age that this was not an equal partnership. And I started realizing that the moment I started noticing that my father would take out bills and he would count what he would give my mom, my daughter, this is for my kids, and you get this. And I just remember that exchange was almost, it honestly did feel like scary and animalistic almost, that like, it's just showing off like as an alpha. Like, don't forget, I control everything, essentially. Like, you get this little piece of bone because I let you. That's how it felt as a kid, watching him give my mom money. And my mom, she looked great, you know, from the outside of you weren't part of the family, it looked like she was living life because she had nice clothes, she had a nice car. Because when it's good, it's great, right? My dad's push gift to my mom was the 99 special edition Lincoln Navigator. Like, it looks gorgeous car, you know, like I can see when it's good, it's great. But to me, behind closed doors, I knew there was a lot of, I personally count that as abuse, financial abuse.
And this was you recognizing this and picking this up less than like 12 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, less than 12 years old. I noticed that it was everything my mom has because my dad permits. And what a way to be taught as a child where you are in that pecking order.
Right, in the totem pole.
Yeah. Okay, this is how it works, gender dynamics. And this is what I knew. So I saw that going through with my family. My father, he passes away when I'm 12. Okay, sorry. Let me go back a little bit more. I didn't live with my dad the entire time. I lived with my grandma and my mom, and then I moved in with my mom and my dad.
That's a whole other layer.
That's a whole other layer of seeing how differently the households live. In my grandma's house, it's like there's so many people packed in a house. It's aunts and uncles and cousins. And I'm at a public school, and it kind of feels like I just felt like, okay, like I have a roof over my head. I'm very privileged. And I didn't have my own room. And I always felt like, oh, like I want more. Like I want more space, or I didn't feel comfortable. All of a sudden I'm living with dad. I have my own room. I'm in private school. And I feel othered. Because I'm like, wait, I feel like I'm too dumb and I'm too poor to be here.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, now all that kind of nuance and entanglement of what you're perceiving, and then attach finance to it, you know, attach money to it.
Money's always there. That's the topic. And being in a private school, and my God, how much envy I had, because I loved that all my classmates looked so adorable, like with the latest like pieces, and when we didn't have to wear uniform, like the clothes or like the accessories they had. Or when I would go over to their homes, I was like, oh my gosh, their homes do not look phenomenal. It's modern, it's gorgeous. Their families look like, so their parents look more equal than my parents. It was just so fascinating seeing that. And from someone that doesn't know what's really going on. It just is just as a kid, like with my innocence, like perceiving things. And then going through that, and then my dad passes away. And he passes away like in one of the most traumatic ways possible. And unfortunately, we learned real quick that my dad did not have a plan for retirement. He didn't have a plan of what happens in the case that he passes away. So it was a short-lived moment, but it feels like a lifetime of feeling othered. And just when I feel like I'm finding my footing, my father passes away. I no longer have a home. I no longer have, by the way, it was like multiple homes. My dad was really into having multiple homes in different parts of Mexico. None of those homes. It pretty much, I mean, I would assume it went to loan sharks. Like, that's the safest way to describe it. Because as a kid, where the hell does it go? I've had no support from my dad's family. It was abysmal. And my mom tells me, I'm back in America and I'm not with my mom. It's scary. And then I'm back with my grandma. I'm back in a public school. And not to say in like a derogatory way, like I'm back in a public school, but it was so much change. It was so much change. And it's kind of like jarring. It kind of feels weird seeing the changes of like financial situations. And I was just like, what do you mean we don't sell this house? What do you mean we don't keep any money? And when I got to America, I didn't have my mom. Unfortunately, my parents have made their decisions. At that time, my mom was incarcerated.
Right. Now you start receiving Social Security for the death of your father.
Because he was an immigrant to America. And I don't know what to do with that money. Yeah. And we just don't talk about money, but I know it's on everyone's mind and everyone's stressed.
And this is you being, 12, 13 years old.
Yes.
Right. Coming into this consistent income, not knowing where it's coming from.
Yes.
How to use it, whether it's something that you should be giving back to the family or something you should be saving for yourself.
Yes.
Your mom's not there to answer those kinds of questions. Your grandma, I'm assuming she didn't speak English as her, primary language.
Yeah, so she knew English, and my grandma, I can't even imagine what my grandma was feeling. It's probably like being a mom all over again, because now my grandma's my main guardian. Yeah. And she's trying to figure out how she can provide for me.
Well, and then imagine the forms that you guys are reading too together.
Yes, all that. And then I make it to high school, and thank God I had teachers that really cared about me and motivated me for college. But I didn't sit down with my mom by high school, she's out. She's not incarcerated anymore. Let me make that clear. She's not incarcerated anymore, but my mom's absent. She's absent. God knows what she's gone through. She's not a present mom. And that has its whole world of issues, because come college, she didn't talk to me about FAFSA. She didn't talk to me about what money we have for college. I took out a loan because my teachers told me, they taught me everything there is to know about paying for college. And there was that frank conversation my teachers had. And they were like, I'll never forget this conversation, but it was very much like, it wouldn't be, because I felt so much guilt taking a loan out. Because like, what do you mean? I literally, when I lost my dad, my dad owed so much, and then we had to get rid of all these, his properties. I don't know. Like, I'm verbal diarrhea here. And my support system was like, hold on. It's not the worst thing in the world to get a loan. And it was a small loan for college, move out for a bit, and begin that process of healing. This is not the worst thing in the world that can happen. And it was liberating, and I'm getting emotional talking about it. And it was one of the best decisions that I did for myself. And it was one of the most selfish decisions I did for myself. My mom was not happy. She was not happy. My family was not happy about the loan. And they were not happy about my choice to go to college without having this concrete plan that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to become a lawyer, or to become, something that they deemed was important and big and pays off. I did one of the most selfish decisions. And it was one of the first true selfish decisions that I don't regret. And that really did change my life. Because the moment I got into college, I moved into college, I dormed. My school was close to my house, by the way. Okay, so a lot of people could look at this, or who know me and probably don't know shit really. Easily they could say, why would you move from Whittier La Habra area to Fullerton? Why would you do that move? You can just commute.
Right, for context, it's like a 20-minute drive, right?
Yeah, it's a 20-minute drive. And for me, it was like, no, it was necessary. It was necessary. Because, and you're my witness, when I had to move back for the pandemic, when you came to visit me, you saw that dark cloud that I was living with since 2008. You saw that cloud. You saw how dark it felt. And moving out and then going through college and succeeding in my own way, And the pandemic just definitely makes you redefine what's like
Mhm.
success. And I was like, I got my degree. That's enough for me. Like that was my success. But then moving out with you, I felt like was another super selfish thing. My
Mhm.
family, I feel that they very much expected me to, once I moved home, to contribute a lot more than what I did. They wanted more out of me. I think they expected more out of me until I was married to you. And then they would allow me to move out. So that was my next big selfish thing is that I moved out before marriage. And then we're talking about finances as responsible adults do.
Yeah.
And when we opened that, I just feel like every time you talked about that, I just started crying
Yeah.
because everything I'm talking about now, this is like years of our relationship of talking about it. If this was the first time we're ever talking about it, I'd be sobbing right now.
Yeah, no, I remember. I mean, even me too, being uncomfortable about how to approach that, not knowing what your experience is and stuff like that. But you mentioned so many things that are so important to break down. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on. One, removing ourselves from those situations that we're in to do the things that I wanted to do. There's a lot of pressure just living there, being pressured to support the family business, which is something that I always wanted to do, but it was this extra layer of, just like you said, how are you contributing now that you're out of school, now that you're working, how are you contributing? Are you giving us that money? Are you giving us your time? What is it? And being stuck there and not knowing, and fully understanding, especially me from the career that I was picking, if I don't set aside or prioritize myself, if I don't make this quote unquote selfish decision, how am I ever going to start my own life? Or am I just going to be stuck here? And I knew that I had to save, I had to get out of there in order for me to be self-sufficient, which ultimately I think any parent would want their kids to be is self-sufficient, right? Some independent, able to support and give back, something like that. But you can't do it being in that environment, in that kind of environment that I was in. The same, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just going to speak on my experience from when we started dating and, we're still living at our own houses or our parents' homes, very similar. You had just graduated, the pandemic just hit. So, college being you graduate, you get a job, you get a career, everything goes well.
Yeah.
It's like throw all that out the window. Pandemic hits, no one's going outside. People are being laid off en masse. Mortgage payments are still due, rent payments are still due. You still need to eat, all that stuff. And it was like such a tough place to be at home where there's family members to support, people have to eat, nobody's sure what the next job looks like or where that next source of income might come from. And even though it might have felt, you probably were receiving a lot of pressure and it might have felt like a selfish decision to remove yourself from that situation. In reality, depending on how you look at it, you can see that as, well, now that's one less mouth to feed. That's one more room available for being able to rent it out or anything like that. That's one more utility payment or portion of the utilities that doesn't have to be paid because it's not being used. So it actually, in a way, it is still supporting them. It can create opportunity depending on what it looks like and what that move is. You might call it selfish, but in reality, you can only give back when your cup is full. You know what I mean? You can't fill up someone else's cup if your cup is empty. And so you need to take those steps to fill your cup up so that you can fill up other cups. And I don't see it as selfish. It's a hard decision to make for sure. Yeah, it's just a lot. There's so many things that you mentioned there that you could just break down.
But what you said about how it turns into a positive, how a negative can turn into a positive, essentially, bringing it back to my mom and having that conversation with a financial advisor, that was the proof. That was the proof of how a negative can turn into a positive. If I had not begun the journey to heal from, this financial trauma, and then where would my mom still be left in the dark about how everything works with finances for her? And we wouldn't know the why her financial decisions. She wouldn't really know 100% with confidence what's the right decision. So I think about that too. I think about how truly like the bridge of how emotional like safety and like that healing journey affects financial decisions positively. And that's my biggest example. That's the biggest thing that I want that is important to me for this episode is that had I not gone through all the shit I went through from high school and so on, healing and doing things that my family did not approve of, like, unfortunately, look at me now, one of the youngest in the family, to have this conversation with my mom. And it felt like such a grown-up conversation. It felt like a conversation, like a wave of sadness, like, oh, I wish this is how my dad should have talked to you about finances. I wish that you knew this earlier. I'm sad that it took so long that for you to really understand the full scope of what it means for you in your next chapter in your life, which is retirement, and to have dignity in retirement. And so it really goes to show how in all the selfish decisions that you can make as a first-gen child that leads with love, they carry that guilt and they lead with love. They ultimately are the key a lot of times to uplifting your family.
And it has worked. I mean, they have created so much for themselves in that time frame, 20, 30 years. And then now me coming into it with a more professional background, a more structured, and started pursuing those opportunities. And don't get me wrong, I think it should be a blend of tradition. This is something that I think about. I have a newsletter actually for family businesses, but coming up in the next generation, it needs to be a blend of tradition and keeping to the core values of what works, but then also being willing to adapt and being flexible enough to take on new opportunities, new approaches, better, different ways of doing things that you don't know how that's going to transform you, your life, your family, but it's something that you have to be willing to do. Traditions are important and there's a place for them, but if you're not willing to grow and change with the world, you'll face a lot of resistance. And that's exactly what I'm facing. I'm sure that's what, first generation professionals or even people who are starting their businesses wanting to support their families, they experience the exact same kind of resistance. I mean, a good example is a financial advisor that I work closely with. His parents also immigrated. They're very conservative in their estimates and they don't want to listen to him for financial advice because they're like, no, like this is not, first of all, we don't talk about money like that. Second of all, like this is my investments. Like maybe not that you don't know, but it's like, you're not supposed to know about any of this. So please do not provide your advice. And he was sharing this with me. He was saying that his parents missed out on really making their money work for them and they could have had a lot more by this time, but either they didn't have access to that information,
the scarcity mindset,
or they weren't willing to sit down with their family member who made that their career. So there's a lot of missed opportunity there, a lot of resistance.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I feel like questions that I have or my girlfriends have, friends in general, saying like every question they've had essentially goes along the lines of, wait, how do I make my money work for me? Because it seems like our counterparts that have generational wealth or the counterparts of like people that already were born into privilege, I have this idea like, dang, like they have it made. Like their money, they don't worry about money. Their money works for them. Like they already have a whole team on it. And I felt like extremely accomplished knowing that we have a financial planner. Like I felt like, damn, I'm making it, because I always assume this is just a privileged person, like that what they have.
You're right.
Yeah, this is like, I feel like, oh, this is only upper tax brackets.
Right, for sure.
I had no idea the importance, the value of how it is for all tax brackets, if possible. And I'd hope that there's some financial advisors that do work like pro bono, or like there's ways around it for people that make even less. But it's the concept of having your money work for you. Yeah. That I feel like it's so awesome to think about because of everything we have spilled to each other of where we came from a childhood. It's mind blowing to think about that. Yeah. And everything that you have mentioned about your experience with your family is just like such a great reminder to me, is like being uncomfortable Being uncomfortable welcomes progress.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You got to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. You got to get out of your comfort zone. And it's always so odd with the dealing with the generational trauma and how it affects our finances. It's like there's no nobility in struggling.
No, you can do a lot more to support your family, your community with more money than you can by being, I wouldn't say broke, but by not having, that money.
The resistance.
Exactly.
Like there's so much resistance that we're met with. And it's like, okay, like we're not getting any prizes. Doing things always, always, always the hard way because you're comfortable with that.
Well, and you hear it too in like the dichos, right? The sayings. It's like money is the root of all evil. Money isn't everything. Stop being, miserly or like, don't be so stingy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Money is important. You cannot, like, no matter how you approach it, money is important. You need it to eat. You need it to put a roof over your head. All these things are, important for humanity's basic needs. And then if you want to do good, you need money to do good. If you want to donate to a nonprofit, your church, give back to your local community, boost, support small businesses, like that stuff costs money. You can't just go in there with hopes and dreams and buy, something to support your small business. Like it's just not how it works. So
I think people are forgetting the setting we're in. We live in a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
And that's money. And we need to learn like the rules. Like for example, credit cards. Like for the longest time, women couldn't have credit cards on their own. And credit cards are like a fairly new concept as well. And credit cards are a new concept for me and my friends. And that felt like another monster to discuss and tackle.
Yeah.
But because of you breaking it down and having that patience to explain it to me over and over and over, like now I'm understanding basically the rules, the money rules, how this works. And you need to know it. There's so many people because stuff like this can be predatory. Like loans can be predatory.
Yep.
And if you don't know how it works, if you don't educate yourself on money, of course, like money, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And you can always argue how that is evil in a philosophical sense. But the reality is where we are right now, we need to learn those rules.
Exactly. There's a game out there that you're playing whether you know it or not.
Yes.
So if you want to succeed, you got to read the rules. It's like imagine playing a game of Monopoly, not knowing any of the rules, and you're playing with the banker who knows all the rules.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, you pass a property or you land on someone's property, they're going to charge you rent, and you're going to be like, what the hell are you charging me rent for? Yeah. And it's, dude, those are the rules of the game. Whether you you read them or not, you're playing it. You're better off reading them.
A lot of parents, this can be a whole other segment too about credit cards, because a lot of people don't, like me included, I didn't understand the concept of how like interest affects and how that affects your credit score. And that's a whole other thing. That's a huge topic in generational trauma. Yeah. Is like
credit cards are evil.
Yes, exactly. Or like credit scores, like it's evil. Yeah. So
and it doesn't have to be. That's what I'd like to say too before we move off that.
In a perfect world, it is like a
video. They're tools.
Yeah. In a perfect world, everyone is financially literate. Like it's a lot. There's less barriers. I completely get it, and I would love that for us. But for where we are right now, what we have gone through, and what we understand is generational trauma. Because if this is what we're experiencing now, I mean, think about where our great-grandparents were. Our great-grandparents, like property was everything. Property was security. My grandmother was in an arranged marriage because it's financially secure for a woman. Yeah,
and that's how marriage historically has been. Yeah. And in some ways, it still is today.
Exactly. So these are generational, these traumas, these obstacles, it has affected us. And how lucky are we where we can live in a time where we can doubt what we've been told. We can give doubt. We can question everything.
I was going to say question everything.
Yes.
Don't leave any stone unturned.
That's as much, I just want to recognize again how beautiful it is to do this episode with you and discussing that bridge of love and money.
Yeah.
The love that was love towards ourselves to take those selfish decisions.
Yeah.
And because of that love we had towards ourselves, as much as there's a lot of self-loathing, at least in my case, there's a lot of self-loathing. There's a lot of the impending doom again. That is still a testament of love for myself. Still believing that making this selfish decision is going to be something good for me. And that's me looking out for me. That's the universe looking out for me. That's probably ancestors looking out for me. But point is that I still led with love.
Yeah.
And that's something that no one can take away. And I'm still paying my loans to this day. But
Well, I want to say some stuff too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go
but
for it.
before we get too far off of it, you mentioned question everything. There's a quote that I read from a book that it said, if you really want to be enlightened, don't believe everything you hear. And then it was, some guy talking about financial advice. And it was like, if you want to be super enlightened, like, don't even believe everything that I'm saying or that I'm teaching you. Like, question everything. And the point of that was to, when you hear something, you don't know if it works or not until you apply it and you learn it. So look it over, think about what someone is telling you, like even in this podcast, what we're telling you, this is based off our experience.
Yeah.
We're talking about what works for us. Your experience could be different. And so take what we're given there, what you're learning from other sources, see if it works. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, throw out that knowledge and look for something else that might work for you. And then the other thing I wanted to say too, and it's kind of escaping my mind right now. Oh, here it is. It was, you're still talking about like the student loans and stuff like that. And a big part of what we're doing is we're unlearning the bad habits that we have, right? And this quote that I've heard, it goes, it isn't so much what you don't know, it's more what you know that isn't quite so, because it's not so much that we need to learn more. You need to become financially literate, study a finance textbook, something like that. That's not quite what we're saying. It's more of, hey, there's some bad habits that we might have picked up along the way. Recognize that these are not serving you and take some time to unlearn them and then replace them with a better habit, something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I mean, what a way. I mean, that's a way that we can close this episode.
Yeah, with that quote.
With that
those
quote.
quotes.
Yeah, with those quotes. I hope the people that are listening to us, I hope they strive. I hope if you feel seen and heard from what you went through, I hope you have a beautiful life. And I hope you even go farther than where I have gotten to, where I am at this point. Because to me, this isn't worth it if we're not trying to spread love and uplift people. And so I love that you say that, like, question everything. Like, yes, like, I hope you guys that are listening have more answers than I do. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation. And I'm happy to do that because maybe that motivates you to question yourself as a listener. Question yourself, have these honest conversations. And that's what I want to do. I want to invite the audience. The audience to question themselves. Here's my invitation. What is one money belief that you want to unlearn?
And tell us in the comments.
Tell us in the comments a money belief I want you to unlearn. I want you to open up a different narrative about yourself. I want you to open up a different narrative about yourself where instead of thinking about living in fear of the trauma cycle and how it's scaring you and how it makes you feel like there's just a constant pattern of just horrible financial decisions, or you're like in the dark of things. I want you to build a new narrative out of that darkness by questioning yourself, by analyzing where do those thoughts come from, what's the root of it. So then these new narratives that are honest is a key that you can use, a tool towards building upon generational wealth. And it can very much start with a mindset shift.
I would say that's probably where it should start.
Yes. And we had to bring the awareness, like episode 1. It's bringing awareness so we can bring the change, so we can learn and unlearn what no longer serves us, so we can embrace financial freedom. I am excited to go through the comments. Tell me, what is one belief you want to unlearn? And also, just to remind people too, so in the comments, I also want to hear what are other topics you would love perspective on from a first-gen couple like us, and that is redefining what it means to create a beautiful life after trauma. In this case, it is the topic of trauma. Let us know in the comments. There's another is another thing you would like our insight on. That's pretty much what I want to end with and what I feel I had to get off my chest. Claudio, is there anything?
No, I think you said it well. Yeah, I would love to hear what our audience, what they want us to talk about, what they want to learn more about, and exactly what they're trying to unlearn that they realize it's not serving them like it used to in the past. So I think you said it perfectly. I'll just recap it with that. And I think that's it for today's session.
Thank you. And see you next time, guys.
See you guys. Thank you.